Keepy Uppy is so sweet and very chaotic. This is the third episode of the first season of Bluey, and there will be spoilers as I discuss what happens in this because, of course, the episode is only about 8 minutes. And Bluey wakes up one morning and realizes she has one balloon left in the packet of balloons, and she blows it up, she releases it, it becomes a little birdie, which I think is always tremendous fun at any age, watching an unblown up balloon flying off into the air because they go absolutely everywhere. But then Mum decides to inflate the balloon and tie a knot in it so they can play Keepy Uppy. And I think everybody has done this. I was going to say in their childhood, but at any age, I think it's just instinct if you have a balloon to try and keep it up in the air, whether you're bouncing it off of surfaces or you're using it in your hands, just trying to keep it off of the ground. And playing it with other people is tremendous fun. I'm terrible at it. Don't ever play the game with me because the balloon will be on the floor within a second. But that's not what happens with Keepy Uppy because Bluey and Bingo are doing pretty well with it. And then Dad comes in and Dad kind of ramps things up a little bit to make it a very intense game. And there was one point when I kind of laughed out loud because I didn't expect it to go quite so bizarre quite so early. It starts off with him turning the fan on, fair enough, the balloon gets thrown into the other room, and then he just appears with a leaf blower. I didn't expect it to go that strange that early on. And then they're in the toy room and there are toys everywhere. Dad makes a very sensible remark that if they'd bothered to tidy up their toys, the game would be a little bit easier. And then the balloon goes outside. And Mum says something that I had never heard before. And I don't know if this is true, and I'd love for anybody to corroborate this. But Mum says balloons burst if they land on the grass. And on the one hand, I think, okay, blades of grass can be quite sharp. But also, I must have had balloons outside before and had them on the grass without them bursting. So that was definitely something interesting. And we meet the neighbours. Well, this is the first time within the series that we've met the neighbours, and that was quite interesting. I don't know how often they feature in the series, but they seemed like very likeable characters. And then we have this devastating moment where my heart genuinely dropped because the balloon lands on the floor and it bursts. It wasn't very loud, which I think was a really good decision because Bluey is, although great for anybody of any age, it is primarily aimed at younger children, and loud noises are unpleasant at any age, but particularly for young children. So I like the fact that the popping moment wasn't actually that loud. I think that was a good decision. But it was genuinely devastating. I'd become so emotionally invested in this game and their happiness that when it burst, it's kind of like everything just ended in that moment. But they were able to turn it around and have some fun by turning Dad into a balloon, and his enthusiasm for playing the game with them, I thought, was lovely. What I also thought was great is that when the balloon did burst, Dad kind of said something to the effect of, he made it a bit too fun, I think is the expression he used, because it went from being a basic game of children playing Keepy Uppy to Dad really making things chaotic, where it was inevitable that the balloon was going to burst because of what he was doing. There was one point where it went towards the spinning ceiling fan, and I thought it was going to burst then. And he admits to them, sometimes it's hard to get it right. And I think that that's so lovely that the parent was admitting to the child that maybe they didn't do the best thing. And often, in fact, most of the time with children's shows, the educational moments are because the children are doing something wrong and they have to learn from it. But actually here, we have two great things. One, we have a lesson for parents that actually it's great to get involved with your children, but if you overstimulate them, then the crash at the end is going to be quite severe, and this is what we get here. But also a lesson for children that parents are humans. Parents make mistakes. And I think that that's a really important lesson. And I think it's a really beautiful episode. 3 episodes in, I'm really enjoying Bluey. Doesn't surprise me that this is a very successful show, and I will be definitely watching more of it. Keepy Uppy is an absolute delight, an emotional roller coaster, beautifully animated, of course, very chaotic, and with some really heartfelt moments as well. Definitely a solid episode.